Welcome everyone to Knights Arena Valorant Challengers North America. The mid-season face-off is here, and we've had an exciting week so far as teams are looking to advance their way through the bracket and try and get all those important points for Ascension. The games so far have been interesting. We've definitely had fun discussions about that, and if you would like to get involved in the conversation, you can do so. pks.gg/fanzone. We'd love to hear what you think. There's always questions we pull for our interviews, but that's all for later. I want to get our two analysts in our discussion now. So I'm going to welcome to the desk Emily and Bach. It's been an awesome week so far. Just a great split overall, Bach.
Yeah, I think that a lot of teams have done exactly what we expected them to do, especially coming into the playoffs, watching those first round matches play out. I think that there were teams that definitely disappointed, but ultimately the previous 2 days went exactly as one would expect, with maybe some exception if you weren't paying close attention to maybe that G2 game where Oxygen was able to beat them 2-1. But overall, we find ourselves with some incredible matchups today that I'm excited to dive into.
It's always exciting when we get to playoffs because I feel like maybe things have kind of shaken up for the most part how we'd expect. I still feel like we've gotten to see teams kind of level up through the split. So at this point now, Emily, heading into our playoffs, that we can see some top tier Valorant.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of watching and analyzing M80 play and Moguls, and I was very impressed. I think M80 is looking extremely strong. I think teams should be worried that are going to be playing versus them. And you can just tell that everybody's doing their job. It's not necessarily that one person is shining more than the others. Everybody's contributing on the team.
Looking ahead for our bracket for the day, M80 is such a great call out because that's definitely a team that throughout the split has definitely had a lot of great conversations about them. So to see that 2-0 over to Skies be moving on within the upper semis is not really a surprise whatsoever.
This M80 team is so much better than I think the majority of the teams currently competing in challengers. It's insane. And it's that old Ghost Core roster from last year who played really well in VCT but couldn't quite get over a hurdle. The hurdle was playoffs. They played in the playoffs the first time they made it. They did not do well. They actually, I think, lost in their first two matches. Then they make it to the LCQ, and it's the same story. So the team gets shaken up a little bit in the offseason. M80 gets rebranded. They bring in some seriously heavy firepower in the form of EU, and now this team looks incredible, like actually unstoppable. This team is way better than that former roster ever was. I think that this team is better than some of the teams playing in VCT Americas. So I would be afraid, like you said, anyone that's facing off against this team. But I also got to give credit to Moguls. They picked up a win over TSM, and I did not exactly see that happening the way that it happened. I thought that Moist could win. Maybe it'd be a 2-1, not a 2-0. But they ended up besting TSM, who kind of fell a little bit flat-footed in their opening bracket match.
I agree. There's nothing really to take away from how Moguls have been playing. They've also been looking so strong. So that's why I'm very excited that these two teams in particular are going to be facing each other, because I just really feel like we're going to see maybe a whole different play style from Moguls, because their games have been a little bit closer than what M80 had to play in their first part of this mid face-off.
And then looking at Guard versus FaZe, FaZe plays better than that 2-0 score ends up indicating. It's actually the first time that a team has put double digits up against the Guard outside of a loss. They've actually struggled, or teams have struggled against the Guard to get more than 9 rounds. So FaZe kept it relatively close in that series. Unfortunately, they do get knocked down to the lower bracket. And then that G2 Oxygen game. G2, 2 losses on the season, this one being one of them. The other one against Turtle Troop. It just feels like they come against an opponent that maybe they should beat, and they seem to underestimate them a little bit. The map pool goes the way of Oxygen. That final map definitely proved to be problematic. It was Lotus. So Oxygen does move on with that 2-1 victory. But again, since it's double elim, Sierra, they're not knocked out.
No, but the lower bracket, I mean, is not going to be an easy one for sure, because G2 now being knocked down to be playing against FaZe as Oxygen's moving on. And I love the fact, too, that Oxygen G2 match was something that we got to see earlier on in the split, being a direct matchup that Oxygen didn't fare so well the first time around. So being able to see that growth from that moment to now be moving on into our upper semis is fantastic. So overall, the way things are turning out for playoffs so far is definitely fantastic. And we're going to be able to see those upper matches going on today. It'll be starting off with M80 and Moist Moguls, which I'm really excited for. And then going on to the Guard and Oxygen. Oxygen, sure, they're able to take down G2, but a bigger and badder opponent now in the Guard, I feel like will be a really big testament to what they've managed to accomplish and level up. That's a little bit for later. I want to focus in a bit more on this M80 and Moist Moguls. Emily, I mean, you were there on Wednesday, got to see them make their way to this point in the competition, and both teams looking great.
They are. So that's why I said earlier that I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I think games are going to be a lot closer for M80, but I just feel like M80 is just looking a little bit stronger at the moment. When they were playing the other day, they didn't really give a chance to DSG as we saw in these clips. They were just overwhelming and taking over. Don't you think, Buck?
I mean, this is basically what we've seen from them all season long, with the exception maybe being their matchup against the Guard at the tail end of groups, which many would even argue was irrelevant because at that point they had already qualified and they were already the number one seed, so it didn't even make a difference. But even still, you want to see a team finish strong regardless of what it means. But this team, they have so many pieces that they can just annihilate you with. So typically when we come into a game, we're focusing our eyes on Koala Noob, which is to be understood. Koala is one of the most impressive players currently competing in Challengers, fulfilling the duelist role for M80. But throughout the season, too, Nismo and EU have had incredible stats as the initiators, one playing Flash, one playing Intel. But Xander also popped off in that game. This is kind of the epitome of this team, and this is an interesting set of stats. So this is the round win percentage for M80 at all times across the group stages and their first round of bracket play. That is their first blood percentage. And then the average enemy 1vx is how many times the opponents they're facing off against have one player remaining in a clutch scenario. Basically, anytime someone ends up in a clutch. So 66% of the rounds played against M80, a team ends up in a 1vx against them because they are so good at taking early fights and controlling the mid round that the late round falls apart. And the reason that is so important is because M80 is literally the exact opposite.
Yeah, looking at these stats, this is huge. 66% win rate, 1vx. I think that's massive. And we saw why. They were absolutely making the enemies feel very uncomfortable and making them not even have a chance to set up.
And somebody that was popping off in this disguise game was Xander. This was only 2 maps, by the way. This is the stats from their game on Wednesday. This is only 2 maps that they ended up playing against this guys. And just looking at that KD across 2 maps, Bach.
Yeah, there's a reason I wanted to point this out. Xander often fades into the background. Xander is the controller player for this team. He doesn't often get to shine in the spotlight. Him and John QT definitely fulfill less glamorous roles compared to the initiators and the duelists. But Xander had an incredible series in their opener for the mid-season face-off. You can see the stats right there. Keep in mind, all of those numbers plus the high cast. He's actually the #1 player for cast percentage to date in Challengers, sitting at, I think, 85%, which is pretty healthy for a player playing a controller position. But the numbers do speak for themselves. He had an incredible series. And I kind of worry that John QT now is like fading into the background because everyone else is stepping up. I need a big game from John so that he doesn't just continue to slide down into the shadows.
Hey, if it's the moment that someone starts sliding into the shadows, that they start having a game like Xander did on Wednesday, then I'm excited for that arc to be happening. And going up against Moist Moguls as we head on into the upper semis. Moist Moguls is a team that I have really enjoyed watching their time through the split, Bach.
Yeah, this match yesterday, or earlier in the week, excuse me, it was on Wednesday. This was absurd. If you watch it, it was like back-to-back-to-back clutches. We talked about it on the desk, and this team, somewhat to a flaw, has crazy clutch percentages. I think it's like 21% of rounds end in a clutch scenario for them, which is not a good statistic, but it's the fact that they win so many of them that it ends up working out, and that's what we saw in the series. Flya had like multiple multi-kill rounds in that first map alone. The team definitely found round wins, but it wasn't as good as I'd like to see it. I would like to see it clean up maybe just a little bit in that mid rounds because the early round is going okay for them and the late round is clearly working out.
I agree, and Moist Moguls plays a much different pace than a lot of other teams play. They play very defaulty, a lot more slower, but they're clutch masters, like you were saying. Flya, like you mentioned earlier, had an insane amount of clutches the other day, and I know that we wanted to talk about that we saw there was multiple of them, Bach.
Yeah, he was huge on the first map specifically. He had, I think, a 3K, and then following up immediately, it was a 4K, or the other way around. It was two huge rounds that helped them control the pace in the first half. But what's more impressive is that last stat line, the multi-rounds. That's multi-kill rounds for him across the series. He had 12 rounds where he killed more than one player. That's why his numbers look so good, but also don't look insane, because it was almost like either he was getting 2 or 3 or he was getting none. It was very much a strange scenario that worked out for Flya, but he was consistently closing out rounds for Moist Moguls.
Something you said during the B-roll was talking about the clutch scenarios that this team has been put in. And it's something that the team does recognize and touched upon themselves a little bit. We do have a quote from a proto here, or as I joked about terribly before the show started to everyone's avail, a quoto. But there's sometimes a little over peaking. Someone gets a good spray down, but it is, whatever it is, we shouldn't be in as many clutches as we are. But as you can see, we pulled them out. Emily, I feel like, if they can pull them out, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, is a proto wrong? I feel like a proto is right. And any team that is going to be playing against them, if they're going to be successful, they're going to have good communications, not give one by ones, and make sure that everybody has the teamwork that's needed. Because, like a proto said, and like we've been saying throughout the entire review here, they are clutch masters.
The thing is, and you know this probably better than anyone, Em, what separates a winning team from a losing team is mistakes. And a team that is really good will capitalize on every mistake you make. And M80 is that team for that reason. Moist Moguls can't afford to be throwing away these mid-round situations, especially the early rounds. It's already bad enough that they're facing off against one of the best early fraggers currently competing in Challengers in Koala Noob. So to lose potentially a player early on is hard enough, but they can't also lose in those mid-round scenarios and end up in 1v3s, 1v4s, because we've already seen M80 is really good at doing that to their opponents. So you take a team who's really strong in the clutch against a team who's really strong at putting you in a clutch. And I feel like the scales tip heavily in favor of M80 because they're not going to throw away those 1v4s and 1v3s like other teams have done to Moist Moguls.
It's definitely going to be a game against some big bad titans here for Moist Moguls. We did get that quote from a proto, but it's time to throw to a video to hear from the rest of the team before today's match.
I think the thing that makes M80 difficult is like their calling style. I think they just kind of like read what goes into their round, like economy wise or whatever, and they just they know how to play around it. They know how much space they can take or how much space the other team has, and they're always aware of like what to do in a lot of situations. So I think that's what makes them like super scary, is they'll always like limit test and just find out the gaps.
They're really talented. Truthfully, when we first started playing them in scrims, when the split very first started, I didn't expect too much, but I think they're all very underrated. They don't really have expectations, you could say. Like, people are not going to be putting them in top 4 in the league, so they're coming in with nothing to really lose. So teams like that you got to really watch out for.
I think everyone on that, they just have so much firepower on that roster. That's the scariest thing about them, honestly. Everyone on the team can shoot back. That's just the scariest thing. But
honestly, you just have to be ready for anything, because every person on that team can shoot back pretty well, and they're all pretty smart players. So you just have to be ready for, I guess, whatever comes your way. And they, like I said, they take a lot of the gaps and they'll abuse it, and you just have to be ready for whenever they have coming to it.
Yeah, I think you'd have to respect all these teams. I think in general this team is more mechanically gifted than some other teams, I could say, but maybe more or less weaker on the strategic side, you could say. I think they're all capable of having really good rounds and stuff like that. You just got to be watching out for that and shutting them down early.
I think it's definitely going to be just very explosive and aggressive, just because of the way me and Sim both play. I feel like it's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of flex initiator players setting each other up, setting the duelists up and stuff. So I think it'll be a lot more explosive than other matches.
I think if we have to play M80, I think it'll be a lot closer than people think, because I think people still might not give us as much credit as, we deserve, and like we'll show everybody that, we deserve it. I think to beat M80, I think we just have to adapt probably faster than we do for any other team, because I think those guys are really good at adapting and just playing like the mid round, so we should just have to be like one step ahead of them at like all times, and I think that'll give us the edge.
I think Sim, I like the way Sim plays. Like, he's not, like, usually, like, I see a lot of duelists in like this level, like tier 2, I guess, like challengers and stuff. Like, all of them aren't actually trying to, like, at the end of the day, like, full on create space for their team and do stuff for their team. And like, I feel like even it, like, Sim like lacks like certain things to like help him fully, like, fundamentally he lacks things. Like, he does fight, whether it's like a good fight or not, he does fight. So like, I guess compared to other duelists, like, he is like, I actually like the way he plays it.
Yeah, M80's X Factor probably is Koala Noob, because he's just so aggressive and he's so good at like getting, the early kills. But I think they have a really good supporting cast for him, like Nismo and EU. Like, those guys are so good at supporting it and setting him up. So I think just everyone on that team is super good. Like I said, I think it'll be a close game, and don't really come into the match underestimating us, and we'll show them what we got.
I'm trying to get my revenge through my ex team, but yeah.
Good luck, Alex and Brock, and obviously the rest of Moist. But we will show that we are the better Ghost players.
Yeah, let's have a great game, Moist Moguls.
I love that in the video. We're going to show we're the better players, so just like have a good game, the juxtaposition on that one. But we should have a great game ahead of us, and going into our map picks and bans, figure out where we're going to be headed to for today. It's going to be M80's pick to be starting us off, and they're going to take us to Havenbach.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really all that surprising. This is one of their more comfortable maps. If you've actually looked at M80's map pool, I don't want to say it's shallow, because that's not fair. They haven't had to play 3 maps all that frequently. So we haven't seen them play Split yet. We haven't seen them play Fracture. We haven't seen them play Lotus. They did not play Binder Breeze before the map pool switched. So this team is pretty much just keeping it pretty simple. You will see them play Pearl, Icebox a little bit, Ascent, and Haven plenty of. So this map pool really could not work any better for M80. But at the same point in time, I don't feel like the map pool is the biggest problem for them. Ultimately, this is a very difficult match for Moist Moguls, so M80 should feel comfortable on any map.
Yeah, and you're right. I think these choices of maps are expected, but I do want to make note for M80 on Pearl. I noticed that they've tried multiple comps. It looks like they tried 3 different comps, and they're at a 50% win rate for that right now. So I'm curious to see what comp they decide to go with for today versus Moist Moguls. But I feel like it's gonna be closer match than what we saw the previous day when they played.
That is potentially their Achilles heel is Pearl. They like the map of Pearl. They've picked it a few times throughout the seasons themselves. This time it is going to be a Moist pick, but they lost to OR Esports. That was the first map loss they had. It was in their first series, and that was the only map loss they had until they played the Guard and lost 2-0 to the Guard. Also on Pearl for one of those maps. It was 13-9. The loss to OR Esports was incredibly surprising. That was a 13-10 loss to kick off the season. They did end up taking the series 2-1, but it still was one of those things that was like, oh, okay, maybe they're not infallible. Maybe they do bleed. So Pearl could potentially be a way into the series for Moist Moguls, but I need to see them fix the problems that even a Proto was able to recognize in that quote, basically saying like, hey, we're making mistakes in the mid round. We're losing players. We're seeing multi-kills happen. And that's the only way they're going to be able to take this to that third map of Ascent. And even if they get there, that's still really difficult, because that is a map that also plays well towards M80.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily like Moist Moguls has the worst Haven in the world. I think it is doable if they clean up the mistakes, but they do have to keep in mind, though, M80 has a very, very explosive and aggressive Haven. They overwhelm, they flood, they don't give you a chance once you get the spike down to get in position that you need, and this is something they're going to have to be ready for.
And then going into this as well, we even got to hear in that video, I feel like most Moguls, like, give the respect to M82. Like, yeah, they got hands. Like, they can outshoot us. Like, they need to be on their game going into today. So I know that there's been conversation about the fact that M80 looking ahead, looking forward into this spot, are definitely a team that should not be underestimated. This is one of our top teams. What do you need to see from Moist Moguls besides cleaning up those clutch situations they leave themselves in to, I don't know, maybe take them down?
The teams that have beaten them, the Guard, basically, they did a great job of neutralizing Koala Noob. That's what really is key, is neutralizing Koala Noob. Now, it's not to say that this team doesn't have options besides Koala Noob, but if they take him out of the equation, it feels like the team stutter steps a little bit. Like, they don't know what to do at that point. They're like, oh, Koala's not necessarily like 300 ACS and plus 15 or like winning all these opening duels. The other players can definitely pick up the slack, and we've seen that. We saw that actually on Wednesday, as Xander was the one who picked up the slack for the team. But it's not to say the slack was left. Xander was just playing really well. When Koala Noob gets neutralized, it becomes very difficult for them to try to like adapt on that situation because they have a very set game plan when they come in. I also think that if Moist is smart, they might have to play like really fast because, like you said, this team does kind of jam it down your throat. That was actually a quote from another player. They're like, I hate scrimming against M80 because they full W. They literally like shove their game plan right into your face and there's nothing you can do about it. So sometimes the only way to play against a team that's going to play like that is to do the exact same thing. You can't just sit back and be like, well, they're going to run at us, so let's just let them. Sometimes it's like, no. They're going to run at us. They're never going to expect us to run back. So it's sort of like coming into battle as two teams just collide. That might be a scenario that works out well for Moist. I still think it's a very, very difficult ask. When we talked to Aproto on Wednesday, he even said like, hey, these are my former teammates. I feel really confident, but I was like, I don't know if I agree.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to find the gaps and just abuse it. Find out what mistakes are gonna be given from M80. Like Moist Moguls were saying, this is their chance to prove themselves. Everybody thinks it's gonna be a clean sweep. This is their chance to show that they got what it takes to make it as far as possible in this event.
I am definitely really pumped if this game is going to go how Bach, you were talking about, just in the fact that it's going to be just aggressive, throw game plans in each other's faces from both sides, one in retaliation to the other. This could be a really explosive and a fun game, and it's time to figure out what the agents are going to be as we head into our first map and toss it over to our casters, Dan and Tanner.
Very explosive and very fun. It's exactly what we're hoping for. It's M80, the Bomb Squad versus Moist Moguls Dryad. We've got 3 maps ahead of us. Yesterday, we were robbed of a 3-mapper, but then we got a 3-mapper. Are we expecting the same today?
I hope so, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, right? M80 being the heavy favorites for this matchup, though on the other side, Moist, that have been on the come up. They've been looking better and better every week and going for upsets every single one of the past 3 weeks. So maybe a potential for those 3 maps, but we know how strong M80 have been looking, and we know after they got that loss against the Guard for that first split, they don't want to let it happen again.
Yeah, they came out. Unfortunately, DSG was on the far end of that loss, the other side of the loss, and they just took an absolute whooping to M80. Obviously, we'll see them play later. Whereas, just like you mentioned, Moist Moguls, upset city, right? You look back to the win over Shopify and you say, okay, you know, Shopify, they looked a little shaky. Then you see a win over FaZe and you're like, all right, like that's better. You know, I guess I could have seen that happening. And then we jump into the mid-season face-off, and then they're playing a TSM that are coming out with crazy numbers since they brought Campeki on the team, and Moist take a 2-0 then. And I think for a lot of people, that makes Moist a believer. And if you're a believer in anybody, you're a believer in a Proto. And just recently, I've been going to the church of a Proto, and let me tell you, he was wearing a Cypher hat. But in the last couple of weeks, he's brought out the Killjoy, and he's doing it again here. He's so strong on that agent.
And we got to see him recently on this Killjoy role, and it was just so good last week. And recently, since he made that change, it just looks a lot more solid. He's enabled to play alone and by himself in a couple of the sites and to stronghold by himself. And it just looks so good. So I'm excited to see him again. I think that is one of the players that are going to really make a difference if they're going to bring an opposite to M80 as well.
And defense has been the weaker side for most Moist Moguls. coming into this one, so we'll see if that Proto Killjoy pickup changes anything, but this is it. Winner of this one moves on to our upper finals. Loser goes down and waits to play another day in the lowers, and it's the battle of the teams that have the most support. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa watching in their watch parties for Moist Moguls versus the entire Koala fam in the chat for M80. And, well, the readout towards C from Moguls finds nothing. Meanwhile, 5 stacked up out towards A.
And Moist, they've only played this map once recently against Shopify. They took that victory, but M80 just looks so clean on it. In the meantime, for this pistol round, though, it's going to be the entry and that plan towards the A site.
Spike planted.
The timing, though, but Jungkook is ready for it.
John just has nowhere to go, unfortunately. No alarm bot here in this round. That turret doesn't find him, so this C push pays off beautifully. 2 early kills here in the retake, and the rest of M80 are completely crunched onto the site. Walanu going to do his best to try and whittle the numbers down. Xander also going to try his hand at it as the Proto and Brock hop back into the kill feed. And just like that, the pistol round to Moist Moguls.
Very nice to see. M80, they were ready for that flank to come through, but they could not answer in time, and they couldn't even position in time before getting spotted by the side of Moist. So pistol round going the side of the defense. And it seems like in such a good read. That is one of the things that have made the difference in the past 3 weeks for the side of Moist. The reading in that mid-round has been on point and even better than some of the top things and all the teams that they got to take down, right? It was the FaZe, it was TSM, it was Shopify, all those big names that people know about. And Moist, they've been taking them down and reading them every single time.
Yeah, M80 don't want to give up that easily, though. Get that spike planted. And in the next round, we find them forced up. 4 Stingers and a Sheriff. Squala going to take this C site. And almost the inverse, where I thought they were going to get a little aggressive out towards A. Instead, they're rotating through the spawn, but they completely give up C, ready to retake.
And they get that information thanks to a Proto that was up close and personal, but just a matter of time waiting for everybody to be up together and push this C site to get the first kill.
Yeah, you laid out towards mid. It seems a Proto ready for this one here. Sim gonna work his way on Guardian in hand. The rest of the team just behind him as Nismo gets a bit of damage, but a bit of damage isn't enough to win you a round. A Bulldog in hand, but forced to rack the bolt finds EU buried inside the garage connector. And a force round that does not go their way means Moist Moguls up 2-0.
And potentially 3-0 with the way things could go down for M80. Obviously, the economy is not going to really help them out for this round. And again, the way that Moist was playing this defense is so interesting. You're going to have a Proto on this garage B side more often than not. And so he's able to make that quick rotation. But yeah, the patience is everything. And for these quote-unquote newer teams and teams that people are just hearing off right now, the coordination for those executions is everything. And Moist is doing it to perfection so far.
And I like that the bank shot on the paint shells there. It makes it to where once they get into lobby, you're getting that explosion in the bouncing Bettys. No delay on that one, but doesn't matter. Nonetheless, M80, they dodge out on that one. Ooh, Xander put in a tough spot. He steps right onto the nano swarm. Another light buy here. It should not affect things too much. This might, however. Xander took damage. He can't plant.
And again, is that delay with the Killjoy utility now finally going for the plan, but Moist just waiting right outside and ready to execute at the same time. Go for the trades. The first one is Sim, and he gets it.
Yep, Sim blast packs his way on. The rest of Team M80 just cannot wrap their hands around anybody from this Moist Mogul squad. Finally, John Cutie neutralizes one, but 4 still stand. And Moist Moguls have put 3 rounds in a row together, but this is where the game starts for M80.
Now flee.
And it has to start for M80 as soon as possible. I think it's so interesting to see, and we got to see at the desk, the analysts were talking about it. M80 and the first bloods that they get is about 63%, which is ridiculous. It's insane that they're getting away with so many of those first bloods. And so it comes down to what we just got to see that last round, Sim being able to perform to the same level. And in so many scenarios, even when they had that last match against TSM, Brock is doing the same, and everybody's able to step up in some scenarios, but you have to be looking at Sim to be doing this constantly.
We'll see if he
It's an
lives
aggressive
up to
one.
it. Ooh. And aggression punished. Looking to be aggressive out towards mid. Instead, it's Brock out towards A long, and Koala makes quick work of that one. Meanwhile, John Judy already caught on the rotate back to the team, and that's the spike. So right now, at the very least for Moist Moguls, they know where the spike is at. They're not really making a play for it specifically. It's only Sim, that player that you mentioned, to be on the backstep, but they know that the time has been stalled for just a moment.
And the one kill is going to be everything that killed your utility no longer available for this post-1 scenario, or to hold this lurk that they know is coming from Sim.
Bomb grenade out. Can't use that yet.
They know it's coming, but how do they know it's coming, right? Because he had fallen back when they went to go get the spike. He's taking the long way around, and they're completely unsuspecting. The spray down lands. Another player underneath. Heaven with the paint shells might be in a bit of trouble as he pushes through. Xander dealt with, and Moist Moguls do it again. 4 rounds in a row.
And for M80, right, the way that they've been playing these rounds and the way that they always like to play is so fast, so quick. You don't see one of them, you don't see the killjoy usually staying behind. Everybody pushing together, going for that A control. And even though they have a confidence that they finally have it, there's these angles and kind of the lack of information even after losing that killjoy early on. They cannot this to happen because again, Moist are ready for it.
M80, the shotgun style Valorant that seemingly in the last couple of weeks, at least 2 out of 3, has been dealt with. The guard found a way to deal with that one, kind of stunting the attack of this team that likes to be in your face, and Moist Moguls doing it right here as well. And a player mentioned in Sim, offline I've been calling him the Fuse. I was mentioning it with you, Dryad, in the green room, whereas this guy's a fuse. You never know what it's going to be like, though. Some days it's a short fuse, and this guy explodes like he's doing today. Other days, a bit longer of a fuse. Either way, stealing the name from the bomb squad is Sim alone being so explosive. Meanwhile, Hero rifle up towards B. Koala Noob, allowed a kill.
And this is when you start punishing a little bit more of this defense, when they start playing alone together. And even though that flash was good, again, reaction in time from M80. For the first time, though, having that numbers advantage to work with, it's still an eco. And they can commit to this with that Rolling Thunder from Nismo.
Bomb buddy out.
And Boombot slows things down for just a second. M80 going back to tried and true. Slam the A site. This time Brock escapes death. Not going to take that duel just yet. Here comes that Rolling Thunder, though. They want to try and stay on the fight. This is what they've done round after round. Here comes the rocket, though. Nobody dealt with. Instead, it's Sim to fall. Koala Noob opening up this round in this site once more as the spray comes through. One rifle was all they needed, but now they've gotten themselves a couple. The blades are still online, and Thief and a Proto in a rough spot.
And the last 2 players here, difficult scenario to deal with 2v4. And yeah, it started as an eco round. But the Vandal for Nismo really made a difference. Also allowing that Rolling Thunder to be available to give that entry to the A site. The showstopper not connecting. And these are the kind of rounds that we are expecting from M80. That patience and trying to play around it. The Thief had a sword to save, but never mind, is denied by M80 as they get the first round.
M80 finally on the board. Walla finding that early pick in the round and then finding another. I mean, finding that early pick and then having the blades. I don't think he tossed the rifle over at that point until a bit later. Maybe he had given it over to Nismo, but I mean, this is huge, especially when if that rocket finds a kill, I believe it was Brock who was tucked in short and found a kill for himself as well. So that really could have thrown a wrench into this thrifty round that M80 were looking to pick up. But either way, Koala back to form in that previous round. M80 finally on the board. This time it's a bit slower.
And it has to be slower. They found success from that slow beginning of that round before, where you can punish a little bit more of Moise. And they've talked about it. The players, sometimes you're over peeking, sometimes you're holding those angles when you don't have to and getting taken down early on. If that starts to happen, then that's how M80 are able to come back to those four rounds that Moist have right now.
I am the Hunter!
Ooh, Hunter Shuri, that'll get out one of the updrafts. So Koala's gonna try and run him down though, and there's just no escape for Brock, unfortunately. Tries to make a big play, but the big play is now in the hands of Koala, who finds 2 early kills again. Zooms the A site and puts Moist Moguls in a rough spot. Only 3 remain, and it looks like they're looking to save.
And again, another very early play. Way too early for Moist. Nobody was tagged. There was no drone, there was no attack, there was no anything to use that Hunter Sphere. Just hoping to get something and to slow maybe that push that was coming from long. But it just such a high risk play. Doesn't get that, end up getting any value. And that's the thing about M80. Once they get those first bloods, they start to snowball more and more and shut down all the plays that could be coming from Moist. So something to be aware of. The slower that they get, especially.
It's only 2 rounds, but it does make you think, right? Moist Moguls come into this one, ready for the shotgun style. And now they're getting the Splinter Cell style, right? Now they're getting the slow style, and it doesn't seem that they were predicting that M80 would be bringing this one to the table. But either way, they've done a pretty good job in the last couple of rounds in saving their economy, putting themselves in a good spot. And it looks like the light armor buys have kind of bled into this Moist Moguls roster.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I know there's different conversations about it. If it's working out, I'm happy. If it's not working out, I start to get a little bit more concerned for Moist. They had a pretty good lead, and these kind of leads by 4 rounds are the ones that once you let go, the mental can play a part in it.
Yeah, what's Tanny cooking? That's what we're all thinking. We'll see. We've got a couple of bits of utility. Oof, Sim put in a tough spot, using some util himself to get out of dodge. So aftershock down for Nismo. Won't have that one for until the next round as EU. Good information there. Spots out of Protos. They know where a few of the members of the defense are playing. Do they know that it's a heavier stack out towards A this time, though?
Yeah, there's no idea yet, but for M80, again, yeah, they can wait and wait a little bit longer for those 50 seconds because that lockdown was available towards Garage, and that's why 3 players were fighting for this Garage control. They get it, and this side of Moist, they just have to back up.
Yeah, if you can get this control, that lockdown is so huge. It leaves a small angle on the C site to play in, but that player is put on an island for so long. Everybody has to get so far away that, yeah, it is just absolutely not worth it. So clears everybody from the site. And look at where everybody's coming from as well. Everyone from the top side of the map. Rolling Thunder comes through and a Proto sits down to EU. He thought he had the angle. I don't know if Koala was spotted. It doesn't matter. Inside the smoke. And his team is dying around him. This Flyer runs through. Koala does it again. It's Mr. Multi-Kill. 2 kills here in this round. For the last 3 rounds, he's done it. Now he tries to hang on with Xander. Plays out towards long. Koala with the dash on. 3 kills. Needs the 4th to try and close out the round. And Thief is only down to 15 HP. The tailwind used. The dash that creates the paranoia. Another smoke goes out. Unfortunately, Thief just has to stick, and he's not healthy enough to do it. Koala takes hold and finds a 3rd for M80.
And there's nothing scarier than seeing Koala go absolutely insane these rounds. This is why they have so many first bloods on the side of M80, why they have so many first bloods and so much success during that split number 1. And he's had one of the best performances that we've seen this year for North America. The potential of that happening again is something that, again, Moist, they need to deny as soon as possible. A Proto and have a lockdown here. Once again, clicking that utility towards B, towards Garage. Go for a faster approach, but never mind. Sim immediately denied.
I mean, what is that guy doing? What is Koala doing? The guy is just pushing up through a stun with the operator on attack, mind you. But that's what works every time. And we've seen it for the last 3 rounds. Koala Noob is awake. Koala had a little bit longer of a fuse than Sim did. But now he's starting to blow.
And again, it's just so terrifying when this starts to happen, when Sim starts to go down. But now, okay, a Proto answers back.
Yeah, great shot there, taking down Koala. Stunting that reign of terror. 4 kills in the last round. Does not find another here. And this one is a Proto. Matches 4 for 4. But it ends up in a 1v1, no less. M80 still have a chance to tie us up here in this round. And a lot of information off the back end of EU's drone, which I believe is headed the wrong way. Peek back sight for just a moment. See if he's expecting him to be here. On the angle, they take the fight, and EU wins. And a Proto did his darndest, but it just was not enough. And we're all tied up.
M80 have the highest clutch percentage from any team that we've seen, and especially when it's EU. I feel like you're always expecting him to get it. And honestly,
One enemy remaining.
it is frustrating. And Proto was fighting back, was 5 HP when he got the third and fourth kill, but the 1v1, there's only so much that you can control. So things are tied up 4-4. For the Z fans, still trying to find an answer back.
And I'll be the first to say it. I don't think that that's the answer. Sim running up A long has
There's
either
also
been...
Running Thunder.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, Sim making this play, last round he died. 2 rounds, or this round, he's forced off of that smoke. The round before he died early, he's forced off. There's just nothing that he can get done out there. They need to just give up this site and allow the retake to happen, but Koala's just too quick. Now gonna go up into heaven. Sim will finally punish, so 1-for-1 is where we land. Ismo forced off the plant for just a moment. But a rough start to the round. It's been equalized for now.
Initiated. Spike planted.
And Proto has been holding onto this lockdown for a little bit longer, and it works perfectly for this kind of retake onto the A site. It's 4v4, Koala's down, there's a chance.
And just unsuspecting, and there might be enough time. No, not enough time to destroy that one. Xander sneaks away, completely detained. No, Deep gonna hop onto the spike, let's get this one halfway before fighting with the rest of the team to try and secure the round and reclaim their lead. 3 still alive, though, as we go back and forth. Nismo taking control. It's no Koala. It's Nismo this time around. The second half of that dynamic duo of M80, and it's them who reclaim the lead.
The players that were short, so annoying to deal with. And Moys are not able to answer back. I think as well, Proto, like you said, unsuspecting that there was going to be one player holding, that was going to be Xander, with a high risk, knowing that he was going to get detained most likely, but the 1 kill until the Killjoy does everything to give the numbers and give the round to M80. As we continue to see this a little bit slower start of the rounds that end up in the explosive fashion that we know M80 for.
And you know what? If there was information on Koala Noob's position, I don't blame a Proto for being in that situation. Because if I suspect anybody to try and stay on the site through the lockdown, it's Koala, and not Xander. Well, that just wasn't the case. It's 2 players here on the C site. They want to fight for it. Koala takes a bit of damage and trying to hold on to it, and the Proto's still here. Forced to swap weapons, always out of ammo. Koala's been dealt with. John's down as well, stuck inside the Omen form. And Xander goes down, and EU the left of the last one standing, tagged up by the Recon Bolt and quickly being run down. It's Flya on the backstab, and it's Moist Moguls back in the win, calling to tie us up once more.
Good round as well. Once again, we get to see the lurk coming through the flank for Moist, with 2 of the players, I believe, that ended up pushing from C long. And it was what they were doing on those early rounds, the first 4 rounds that they got in a row. And now adding the factor of a Proto managing to stay on side and getting 2 kills. This is why we've been talking about this guy. It seems like sometimes he's invisible to everybody else, and he's always there and ready to go.
And Mr. Deadeye himself always seems to find a way to get 1, if not more. Oh no, Sim. Oh, the timing. Timing just so awful. Koala gonna try and survive, and he does so. He goes up, and well, the rest of Moist Moguls, they go down. M80 seized control of the round, 1 player ahead in an open C site.
These are the rounds that M80 absolutely love. When it's that aggression met, but it's still that surprise factor coming from them, especially on this attacking side. It's a 2v3 though, still doable, but yeah. One of the players here, Proto's gonna get spotted.
Last player standing.
Ooh, okay. Oh my God! I was gonna mention them being isolated, but it doesn't matter. A 2v3 that Brock just makes it a 1v3 and kills them all.
Oh, no.
Brock has it. And you love to see it as well. I think Brock, in the past couple days that we've seen him, or the past couple of weeks, he's gone from having really good performances to a little bit more shaky performances, maybe relying a little bit more on giving that support to everybody else in his team. But recently, last week and throughout this face-off, he's been stepping up for plays like that one. This is the Brock that I know. This is the Brock that we know.
This is the Brock that showed on every highlight reel on Icebox, on every night's broadcast ever.
It's good to see him. And again, they're going for this Hunter's Fury. This time around, they actually managed to tag the players early on and push them back. But Nismo, again, Rolling Thunder for the first time in this half.
I think John Cutie, even at the start of the round, took some spam damage or something out towards mid. While we were watching that Hunter's Fury, he was knocked down to 44 HP. Definitely could have died if he was also affected by that Hunter's Fury, but instead it's just Koala, which is arguably, if you're not going to get a kill, that's the target you want to land a shot on.
With 2 players, relatively low for M80. It looks good for Moise. Now holding a little bit more into those positions, and the timing for the Hunter's Fury, even though it was from the same position, looked better. Just actually forcing M80 back. If they end up going to the B side though, it is the same thing that happened before. That Killjoy utility, a nightmare to deal with.
Shock darts deal with the first, they'll pop the second, and Xander, that's actually where he wanted to go instead.
Left.
He'll be stunned up, some time bought. Squala goes aggressive. Ooh, paint shells is gonna force him. Backside here, the util usage has been good to stall, and here it is. Deadeye himself as he works his way through. Can't quite find the third. He was stunned up. Solo ulted by that Rolling Thunder, and this play has forced M80 out towards the seaside. And Koala's in the back lines. I said he was low health, and that's who you wanted him to be, low health, but it might not matter until it does. Finally, Brock will silence, but Nismo cuts it down. A 1v1, and Nismo does not have to worry about the plant. That spike is already down. Same recon bolt we see, same jiggle peek. Out from Brock, who did it all himself in the last round. Tries to do it again. Here in this one, a shock dart at the feet. Nismo not ready for the swing, and Brock will do it once more.
He did it once. He was, of course, going to do it again. Brock with a clutch right at the end. His 7th round for Moist as we go into the second half.
Switching sides.
Looking really good for Moist. Got a little shaky. Started going more aggressive, especially when they like to go for the mid control and get a timing that doesn't always work out for Sim, but it doesn't matter. They recover and they take the advantage.
Wow. I don't even know how for the first 10 rounds. I guess if not every single round of that game. I guess that's the M80 style, though. I don't know how anybody could even develop a thought. The game was happening so fast, except for 2 rounds that M80 decided to take slow. I was sitting here struggling to keep up. As the barriers are closing, the round is over, and we're back to starting the next round. And I'm sitting here just still trying to catch my breath. I can't imagine what the players are feeling. Now we'll see, though. Do Moist Moguls want to keep up that same fast play style? It looks like they do.
No! Oh, 2 kills for Koala Noob with the Sheriff as well. The big risk on the pistol round, and it's so good to see it work out. M80 in a 4v3.
Xander lets the angle slip just a bit. Brock also took damage in all of that exchange. So this 4v3 is 4v2.5. Brock has to be careful, but he does have information for his team. He does have shock darts. Looks like he wants to be tip the spear, though. Off of contact here from Xander. The stun goes out. 2 players affected by it. And
Spike down.
well, it's all up to a Proto. Spots out Nismo. Shots to the head through the box. Not enough to secure the kill. And M80 on track to tie us up once more.
Even throughout that exchange, M80 were comfortable and confident that it was going to end up towards that A side with all 3 players positioned and playing around that breach utility.
1 enemy remaining.
To get the timing just right for Nismo. That's a way with 3K on the pistol round and potentially looking to make things even. It's not going to be the same scenario as M80 in the first half. Moist is actually going to be forcing here.
Now you expect it from a Proto. Maybe you expect it from Sim as well. They've got themselves Sheriffs. Other than that,
Nice try.
full save from everybody else. Good reveal. And, well, even better kills behind it. Okay, the Proto making this one hurt at the very least. It's all up to Sim and to Sheriff himself. John Cutie just around the corner, sits him down. Nice and easy. So tied up is where we find ourselves. 14 rounds into it, 7-7. This bonus round for M80 Dryad. 2 Guardians and a Vandal, which I don't see why you wouldn't reinvest, especially because John just hung on to the Ghost in that last round. This could be an op round.
I think it's gonna fall down into the hands of Koala Noob. We've seen a lot of really good plays, especially that pistol round. Sheriff 2K to start us off with a little bit of damage. As long as Koala Noob is able to keep this performance for this specific round, round number 15, then there is a chance M80 can get away with the same thing Moise did in that first half.
And these respective sides are the strong side for both of these teams. Sim goes aggressive inside the smoke, and M80 ready for this one. They know that somebody could quite possibly be inside this as Xander takes a couple of shots. Sim gonna take a step out, spot nobody, and look back away and play with the team.
Placing alarm bomb. Placing swarm grenade.
This is good though. Everybody's playing together. Everybody's a 5v5 retake now for the setup M80. As they almost had a timing, Sam is gonna be waiting up close.
Sim needs to be ready for everything here, and it does look like he is, but M80 haven't quite pulled the trigger just yet. Now inside the smoke, just like Koala Noob did previously. They weren't ready for it. Sim and Thief to find the first couple of kills, make it 2 for Thief as EU looks to trade him back, but now it's all up to Nismo. He's got 3 players on the other side of him. He dodges out on the stun, taps to the first head, needs to find 2 more. Unfortunately, will not have the space nor the time, so he's forced away, and Moist Moguls have taken the round.
Yeah, there's no chance, nothing else. As Moise once again takes the lead, a lead that they would like to keep until the very end of this map. Start to get the momentum for what would be maybe now the 4th upset that this team has had. It's all step by step. There's a long way to go for Moise, and that is a good round to start them off. On this attacking side, like you said, the stronger side more than anything. But with Koala Noob having an operator towards C, that might be a different story.
Yeah, you said a long road ahead of them. How about a long barrel staring them down, and he's gonna push in front of the smoke? No way! Sim was ready for it!
Wow.
Okay. All right. Diffuses. They've detonated on both sides. As John, Cutie, and EU find their way back into this round, way of Hunter's Fury, and because of that, Proto's able to put down that lockdown, make this one harder to retake. Nismo gonna go aggressive, try and deal with a few players here. Chalk darts queued up. Time off the clock as that spike continues to tick. Paranoia goes out. Smokes galore as they spray down the diffuser. It's Xander first to fall. Brock looks for something extra, but instead it's EU to get it. As he gets spammed down, that smoke was not strong enough to keep him alive. And Moist Moguls, they grow their lead to 2.
I mean, and look, I get it for Koala Noob to go a little more aggressive. Sometimes, especially as a duelist, especially when you're that jet player of Koala Noob, you want to take those risks, but it's just not worth it. No support, nothing else at least to go with it, to go with the operator. And it ends up going in their wrong hands. For Moise, they're going to continue the streak now. 2 rounds that we've seen found success towards C, and that means time to change things up. 3 of the players of this defensive side of M80 towards B. Try to spot anything expected, maybe a little bit of aggression, but nothing early on.
That was a huge round, a reset round for M80. Still very dangerous with the weapons that they do have, but Moist Moguls definitely leaning a bit better as the favorites here in this round at the very least. Xander's got a tall task ahead of him. He's only got a frenzy, and he's about to be met by a couple of Moguls here.
Cover going out.
This is a little bit of everything that he has to deal with. Immediately clear, yeah, there's no chance. There's a Sobo all the way backside, but could not swing at the same time, could not get anything done. Again, it's an eco round here for M80.
As retake, difficult to say the least. If they find a couple of kills, which it really isn't out of the question, they do have a Rolling Thunder to try and, I guess, punish or put some type of pressure on the players out towards long. But for now, it's just spam. Exits are the dream here, it seems, for M80. Recon Bolt feels there's the swings and finds one. But, I mean, this damage doesn't matter for M80. They're supposed to die in this round. For Moist Moguls, they want to try and keep these weapons in hand, stop the bleeding on the economy. Niu He doesn't know what to do here. Do you try and hang on to the Guardian? Nope. It does look like he will concede that weapon and the round. Moist Moguls grow their lead to 3. Double digits here against M80 in map 1.
If you're a fan of Moist, this is a pretty good indication of the real improvement that we've been talking about. And it's great to see in all those rounds. Now it just becomes even more difficult. Yeah, sure, it's going to be finally the buy round for M80. But there's a Rolling Thunder, and yeah, that means that the players are going to be looking to get a little bit closer towards that A side, something that this attacking side has not contested yet. And it can be sure matched by Nismo, but that space for Moist is everything.
Wow.
Oh, and EU tries to get away with it. No chance.
Very greedy there to try and stick that orb. Just gets sprayed down. That definitely does not feel good to lose your information early in the round. The retake is going to be that much more blind, and that's exactly the call. Nismo forced off the site, waiting for the rest of the team to get here.
You know, you have all those tools for postpone scenario. Even with the lockdown available for M80, there is a Hunter's Fury on the other side, so... Wow.
Giving it up.
Yeah, in a 4v5.
They're giving it up, right? So, difficult to retake. No recon bolt, no drone. EU's utility, very strong in any retake, on any site, doesn't matter. But then, when you look at what they have, everything can be countered. So, from this round to the next, it doesn't get any easier.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Moist, they didn't even have to use a lot. Pretty much anything. The strong ultimates that we're going to see in the next couple rounds. That Rolling Thunder is still going to be available. The Hunter's Fury to counter the lockdown from John. The Showstopper potentially for that aggressive entry. Everything is still going to be there for Moist. Yeah, finally we get to see that timeout for M80.
Yeah, this is, I guess, you know, maybe not getting first blooded in the next round. You find first blood yourself. You deal with Brock. There's no Hunter's Fury for the lockdown. It just feels like M80 coming out of the timeout are still looking at a lot of what ifs. And probably a lot of weight on the shoulders of Koala Noob to find an early pick in the round, to be in the right spot, which he does have a tendency to do so. Pretty darn good at finding early kills. This is 2 rounds away from Moist Moguls. They're reared up to take map number 1, which in a map pool that I think looks pretty darn good for them. Haven, Pearl, Ascent.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of map 3, which, I mean, we just saw the guard dismantle the attack of M80 on Ascent the other day. So yeah, there's some footage there. So should we get to map 3, who knows? But Haven Pearl, it's not an easy run for M80. This was not going to be an easy series for them.
And if you are Moist, you might want to underestimate them before this match. I mean, you look at the stats for M80 on Haven. Yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, they won this map 4 times, right? Sure, two of those times were against these guys. But, I mean, the come up for Moist is absolutely insane. And the potential that they have now, taking the lead on Haven, is everything that they need.
They've got the read. Look at this, Nismo.
Sweet Rolling Thunder.
Ready for the Rolling Thunder. Chooses not to send it though. Owl drone dealt with. Operator here on the angle. Sim the first one to fall. Paint shells go out. And another just around the corner. Nismo gonna hang on to the util. Instead will use the rifle. As Koala finally falls, only 2 remain, and Aftershock will force their hand. It looks like they choose to walk away. Thief does so with 5 HP.
Try running away from him, but no chance. 5 HP for Thief and a Proto. The only other member of Moist staying alive. Trying to get something going on. We didn't see that Rolling Thunder. That would have been the difference for Koala Noob to get off that angle, to get stunned, and maybe things would have been different. But M80, like you said, just such a good read at the beginning of the round.
If they didn't hear anybody out towards long, which they should have heard a Proto maybe leaping away, they definitely spotted that spike is no longer there. Split across the map, so a 2v2 here out towards the A site, a 2v2 out towards C should they need it. Here comes that Rolling Thunder, though. They want this round. They want it bad. Recon Bolt dealt with, so is a Proto, and M80 have done it. They hung on to the ult early. They send it late, and they take the round.
But did they need to use that Rolling Thunder?
I don't know, man. I get it. No, win the round. Okay, I get it. That right there is... Happy belated St. Patty's Day, by the way, Proto. That right there is the utmost respect that you could give to anybody. You and I have just witnessed the other day a Proto going bananas in 1vx situations. So I respect it, to be honest. It is a big piece of utility, though.
Yeah. All the resources are still going to be available for Moist. Okay, now you've been holding them for 3 rounds. And okay, that is just unfortunate. Thief, 1 HP. Sim also gets taken down. Oh, the spray through the smoke.
Off your feet!
Wow. I mean, Moist kind of letting it slip. Okay, never mind. A Proto. Quick with it, clears the corner, a 1-tap and backs away from it all. Unfortunately, the stun has subsided. You've got to try and take these fights, and they have all the tools to do so. Instead, Nismo dumped inside the smoke. Xander, not long for this world, but Nismo still gets one as the smoke will dissipate. And this time, it's Brock and Thief. And Thief, not 5 HP. How about 1 HP in the 1v2? A beautiful flash, Koala with the knives, and we find ourselves 1v1 around the box C long. And this is where Brock will thrive, and that's exactly why.
3 for 3 clutches for Brock. No way he does it again. Knew his teammate was essentially dead 1 HP and still managed to turn it around for the side of Moist. What a round. Just so chaotic, back and forth. One of them gets taken down through the smoke. They still commit to the Rolling Thunder they've been holding on. And they turn things around once again. Make sure M80's momentum is stopped as soon as possible.
Placing alarm bot.
And I love the confidence in that. You lost Sim, which means you also lost the Showstopper and the tip of your spear. Thief was also 1 HP, but they still had the confidence to take the map the way that they would previously. Nothing changed for them, and this one starts off the same exact way. Sim with an early kill. Hunter Shuri's traded, and Brock will do it again. Thief will teleport backside, look to secure this one for the team. Unfortunately, can't find the kill. John Cutie takes down 2 before he makes his exit.
Bot coming back.
And again, we find ourselves even, but the best 2 players alive in a situation like this. It's dynamic duo of Koala and Nismo. Moist Moguls know it. They're not committing to this plan just yet. Finally, they'll get that spike down.
Spectre, though, for calling him.
1 enemy remaining.
All but getting out close, and Nismo's gonna take care of it just fine. Vandal finally making the difference, and M80, they get to see another day of Haven.
Wow. Yeah, Koala not even needed. Like you said, Spectre in hand. Backs away, grabs that operator as that round ends. That stings a little bit. Thief not finding that kill. John Cutie allowed to get 2 in that position. That right there, it is the round. A player down would have been M80. It would have looked a little bit more doable for the Moguls. Unfortunately, not the case. But they go back to this one, and guess what? Sims died pretty early in these rounds, so he still got the showstopper.
Yeah, the last 2 rounds. The first one down. And now with the lockdown available for a Proto, we saw how successful it was for that post plan, but it requires the plant and that first kill to come in. First, the showstopper, no value towards backside.
This is going to buy out that lockdown, though. Hunter Shuri using the last round means no real way to deal with this one unless Sim is going to look to get aggressive. Aftershock goes through. Only a couple bullets need to land, but they don't do so in time. Instead, he'll find the kill, but the attacker all forced away. But they got the spike planted. A Proto's got a lockdown of his own. Aftershock going to come through. He can't stay to defend it, but he'll back away, and Thief will make sure he does so safely. The cavalry has arrived, however, and they want to push up on this one. Nobody to defend as Nismo goes aggressive. Now they only have to worry about the spike, but they have to have the spam around them. And Koala left reeling in it all with an operator. Will hop onto the spike once more with 61 HP. He's blinded up. He's just about taken down, and it's Brock to do it. Moist Moguls will take map 1.
And it's that surprise if you're a fan of M80 and you've seen those results, but also not a surprise at all if you've seen the performance that the side of Moist have been having recently. It's so good, and I think this is only the first indication of what they can do throughout this best of 5 series. There's so much potential, and the coordination for every single one of those plays, especially when we got to see that attacking side was clean. Yeah, most of the times they were running it towards that C side, but it was working out. The entry for Sim was everything that they needed for the execution and to also position a Proto for success.
Yeah, and looking at this map, a relatively close map at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, not many losses for M80. I think they had 3 map losses on the season, kind of as a whole. So this is not familiar territory for them. Meanwhile, for Moist Moguls, right, we've been blessed. Yesterday, we got the upset. Oxygen did it. We get an upset early here in map 1, and I think it looks good. I want to give love to Moist being able to have the better of, I guess, both halves, right? They're the worst half for both of these teams. The defense, the numbers aren't great for Moist. On the other side, they're lower for M80. And then you go on to the strong sides, and Moist Moguls managed to get it done on their strong side versus M80 strong sides. I don't know. I think we're in for a 3-mapper, although I do think this map pool does make things... you got to get the wet floor signs out for this map pool, I think, is basically what I'm saying. But we've got a lot to look at in that map 1. We've got the desk on the other side. We're going to hop away for a short break, but here are the highlights.
Enemy killed. No charges. Yikes. One enemy remaining.